Hello everyone and welcome. This session will be recorded and all participants have been muted. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box only. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, and if all questions cannot be answered in the time frame of this webinar, the presenter will follow up with those who could not be answered. Certificates of attendance will be sent to all participants of this webinar. If you are joining with others or by phone and do not appear as an individual in our participant list, please email your name and email address to info@camdr.ca. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you've taken time out of your life to view this webinar. Yesterday I met with your CAMDR board and we had I think it was an excellent session. Some really great information was shared by both me and the participants, information that I am certain is going to help you feel more hopeful, more empowered, more in control, maybe improve a relationship here or there. And yeah, so listen up. I will stick around till the very end. Type your questions into the chat box. I'll be looking at that throughout, and I will get to as many of them as I can at the very end. So see you on the other side.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Good morning, it's Stephanie Staples here, and I'm excited to be with you guys. I was supposed to be with you guys in person, but this is close enough. This is as good as we're gonna get. So we're here today, we're talking about emotional wellness in turbulent times. Is kind of the topic that I would like to bring forward. I also want to let you know right off the hop, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I've never been through a pandemic before. I don't know much more than you guys know, to tell you the truth, but I'm just trying to get through it as best I can. I'm a rewired nurse, author, speaker. I've got some tools to bring to the table. At the same time, I know that you guys are very smart, resourceful, capable people, and probably also have some tools to bring to the table. And if we can walk away from our short time together with one idea, one tool, one tip, something we haven't thought of before, that we can implement to be more hopeful, more empowered, more in control, to me, that would be a good use of time. I hope it would be a good use of time for you as well. So it's meant to be a very interactive session. I'm really hoping I'm not going to be the only one speaking, or it's going to be less exciting. But that's kind of my goal for today. So when all this started, so as a professional speaker, I'm usually on a plane every week going somewhere. And as you can imagine, my calendar is completely wiped out. So like, absolutely nothing on my calendar. And while trying to process that, one of the things I decided was that, well, clearly, if this is going to be the worst financial year of my life, which it will be, what if this was the best year of my marriage? What if, so the hub and I have been together for over 30 years in a row. And I just thought, what if I dump all my energy, and instead of dumping it into my business, I dump it into this relationship? Empty nesters. And so that's what I've done. So basically for the last 2 months, we have been kind of recreating our marriage, and that's where the majority of my energy, my emotional energy, has gone into, and it's going really, really well. So that's kind of where I'm at. For you guys, everybody is going through things, and we're all going through the similar thing, but we're all going through it differently, obviously. And COVID is not happening, instead of births and deaths and accidents and relationship problems. It's happening within all that other great stuff that we call life. So today, when we go through this emotional wellness in turbulent times, I'd like to take you through a little 3-step process that I use when things are very, very overwhelming to me. And when there is a lot of emotions coming in, it's very difficult to deal with them, to work through them, to get a handle on them, because there's so many different emotions. So the 3 steps, the acronym is NAP, which a nap at any time is probably a good thing, but this NAP stands for notice and acknowledge and plan. So right now, what I'd like to ask you guys to do is to just think of one emotion that has been maybe heavy on your heart, or weighing on your mind, or consuming a little bit more of your thoughts than you would rather it have. So just of the whole cloud of emotions that are going through in the last few months, can you narrow it down to one that is, if you could get a bit of a handle on it, that you might just feel a little bit better? So This is the audience interaction part. I'm going to ask, so if you want, you can type in the chat box one of those emotions. If one of you would speak on one of the emotions, that would be great. So I will sit through the uncomfortable silence while one of you volunteers.
Frustration.
Frustration? Is that Laura?
You bet.
Laura, thank you. So is it okay if we play with you and that emotion for a little bit? Would you be okay to be on the hot seat?
I will be your victim.
Oh, okay. Well, victim is a harsh word. Okay, so frustration. Now, I'm sure that you're the only one on this call and listening that has got that feeling. I'm sure that's just you, right?
No,
of course not. So almost whatever emotion, maybe that's not going to be the top one that everybody's going to say, but I'm sure frustration is on that short list for many, many, many people. So can you talk a little bit more about the frustration and what that's looking like, feeling like, how it's that showing up in your world? What's the biggest cause of that? Just talk a little bit more about that for yourself.
frustration is probably due to some of the isolation in moving forward with things, the demands that are asked of us, and there is a lack of information. This is a new world that we're entering. I have lived through a pandemic before with AIDS in '86, but this seems to be a little different from the area that I'm coming from. At one point in time, I was a general duty nurse, and now I'm on the floor doing leadership. So this has been kind of frustrating, trying to pull all these balls together. They're in the air most of the time, and every once in a while one drops and I need to pick it up. So that's how I'm kind of using my description of my frustration.
Okay.
And it's not at any particular person, it is just the system itself.
More situational, right?
Global.
Exactly. So when you think about, again, that plethora of emotions that are just this big emotion cloud, when we can get it down to one, just noticing that one emotion, we're kind of funneling that down. So frustration is that emotion. The emotions are there for a reason. The emotions are there to give you information. And I think one of the biggest things we can do for ourselves right now is have more than we've ever had before is self-compassion. Self-compassion. We are not crazy because we're frustrated. We are not incapable because we are frustrated. We are not less competent because we are frustrated. We are not any of those. We are just trying as best as we can to deal with that. So I think, really giving credence to that. You have very good reason to be frustrated. You have many, many very good reasons to be frustrated, and acknowledging that and giving yourself permission to feel that is super important. So the N was noticing one emotion, it's frustration. The 2 was acknowledging it, just realizing it's okay to have that. And one of the best things you can do when you narrow it down to one emotion is to try and get all that stuff that's in your head out of your head. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. Well, probably more than a couple, but a couple that I'll talk about right now. So one is writing. Maybe you're going to set your buzzer for 10 minutes. You're going to put frustration at the top of the page, and you're just going to do free flow writing about whatever your word is. No editing, no looking back and reading it, no worrying that somebody else is going to read it, no judgment around it at all. Just getting it out. We're just trying to make space in our head to move forward. We're trying to get all that crap out of there. And sometimes, you start writing and you're like, I don't even know what I'm writing about. This is stupid. I don't want to be writing. And then you'll just find like, it's like, where did that come from? And that's interesting. I didn't know that. So I've been doing this every morning. So before I would just do it about a specific topic, but right now I'm actually doing first thing in the morning. I set my buzzer for half an hour and I write for half an hour, just about whatever crap is in my head trying to get. I'm not saying do that, but at least try it once. At least try it once and see what that feels like to get that stuff out of your head. If you hate writing and you do not want to do that, talking it out is another way to go. But I would again set a boundary on that time and choose a safe person to do that with. So a trusted advisor, a trusted colleague, not somebody that's going to kind of feed the frenzy, but somebody that's just going to listen to you get this all out. I'm going to set my buzzer for 5 minutes. I call it a BMW session, bitch, moan, and whine. I got to get this out. Okay. And then it was actually one of my audience members that told me after, she goes, oh, she says, after the BMW session, you should have another BMW session. And that stands for breathe and move forward willingly. And I was like, that's a gooder. So after you get all this information out, the P in NAP, so N was notice it, narrow it down to one emotion. 2, acknowledge that emotion, let it, feel it. It's okay to feel it, and ask, what information is this trying to give me? And the P stands for plan. So that would be that breathe and move forward willingly. So normally my business is called, Your Life Unlimited. And I'm like, go, we're going to make ourselves better. We're going to make the world a better place. And bring your A game to work in life. Usually that's where I'm at. But now things are a little bit different. We're lucky, if we can bring our Q game, never mind our A game right now with all that's going on, right? We're just trying to get through. One of the biggest lessons I learned actually was from a physiotherapist. So I had a problem with my hand, and I went in to see the physio, and she said, how we love to ask in nursing, what's your pain? On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? And I said, I'm embarrassed. It's like a 2 or a 3. It's not bad at all, but I know that something's not right. I just know something's not right. And she said, most people come in, their pain is an 8. And she said, it's very easy to diagnose, but it's very hard to treat. She said, if people would come in with a 2 or a 3, she said, it's harder to diagnose, but it's very easy to treat. So I want you to think about your emotions like that. When you can feel that emotion, that frustration, we're just saying for now, coming in, well, maybe it's going to get better. Maybe it's going to go away. Maybe it's not even that important. I'm not even going to bother with it. The 2 turns into a 4 and a 6 and an 8. And then it's like, and then you're yelling at the partner and you're yelling at the kids and you're yelling at the cat and you're yelling at everybody. And then things just, you're not functioning well, right? But if we can notice how that is feeling in our body, oh, I'm starting to feel it in my neck. I'm starting to feel it in the back of my head. I'm starting to feel it in my gut. Okay, it's a 2, it's a 3, it's a 4. We want to be able to notice it at that point and try and figure out how to get it just down a little bit, right? Rather than, okay, we're not trying to bring her a game right now. We're just trying to bring a game, a game. And how do we move that down a little bit? So then it comes in with our P for plan. So Laura, what kind of things can you or do you do to help reduce your frustration?
Walk, stairs, sit outside by myself, look for an independent space with no stimulant in it at all. So I try to isolate myself a little bit.
Perfect. So let's talk about those things that you said. So one of the things she said was outside. So nature, even just plants, one of the expressions I heard was blue and green must be seen. So when you are feeling that coming, how can you get your feet onto grass, your eyes onto a tree, your hand touching something green or in water or something nature-like to try and shift? Now, again, we're not trying to shift from, from like the whole scale. We're just trying to lean down. How do we get ourselves down a point or 2 on that scale? How do we make ourselves, 1 or 2 degrees better? So nature and outside, green or blue is a wonderful idea. The other thing she said was stairs. So that's a really good one. So that falls under the motion changes emotion. Motion changes emotion. And if you don't like how you're feeling, move your body. If you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing, lift your arms up. If you're walking, do the stairs or do a couple of spins around in a circle or do something with your body to change. It will physically change the way you're feeling. So when you do that stairs, you might go into that stairwell feeling one way, but chances are very good you'll come out of that stairwell feeling a little bit different. And one of the things that I do is adding that musical element to it. So it fits in also with the physical activity, and we all want to get more physical active, but how do we? So I live in a little condo. The gyms are closed if it's raining here a lot, so maybe I'm not outside, but I will give myself 3 songs. So on my little playlist on my phone, 3 songs, and that is, I'll go to the stairwell and I'll just go up and down for 3 songs. And usually by that point, I'm already like, now I'm kind of into the music and I'm moving, and then all of a sudden like, oh, usually 3 songs is about 10 minutes-ish. But often I'm like, oh, it's 12 or it's 15 minutes. Oh, I'll just do one more song because I'm feeling good. I never come out of the stairwell the same way as I went into the stairwell. I just don't. So that physical activity is huge, and I think we need to change the way we think about it from, oh, we need to go for a walk for an hour, or we need to do whatever for this length. We really don't. We only need a few minutes to have that emotional impact on our bodies and our minds. So that's huge. The other thing that Laura mentioned was being solo. So just kind of removing yourself from the situation, having, I imagine probably when you're doing it, you might not even realize, but you're probably taking some cleansing breaths, just removing the stimuli, right? So again, great if you can get away for an hour or 6 or a weekend, but if you can't, please don't underestimate taking a moment or 2 or 1 song's worth or an extra long bathroom break. Don't underestimate the power of a little bit of solitude, and perhaps even coming up with something that you do in those couple of minutes of solitude. So one of the things that I do, somebody taught me, it was Qigong or something, and I don't even know. So, you go up and you go down. It's called Old Man Finding Something in the Water. That's the technique. You could Google it if you want. But you breathe out and you're like swishing water trying to find a shell. And then you bring your arms up and you breathe out. And then you crunch your finger and your fist and you finish your breath off. And you do this like for 6 times. I have no idea about Qigong or like what this actually does. I do not know, but I just know when I do this, it makes me feel better. Just because I think I'm moving my body, I'm refilling my lungs with, I'm getting, air down to those cells that aren't usually getting the cells, and I'm just doing something different. I'm focusing on me. Perhaps there's some physiological thing with the stretching, and I don't know, but it almost doesn't matter. So if you could come up with your own little couple-minute routine, this is what I'm going to do when I'm feeling at 4, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to do, 3 stretches, 5 toe touches, and 2 deep, I don't know, whatever thing you do. And that's going to help you, hopefully come back feeling a little bit more refreshed, replenished, something. Is that helpful at all? Yep. See how she just gave all her own answers there. Yeah. But
well, it's interesting because you talk about physical activity. Well, one of the things on my street here in Mount Pearl is that there's 5 or 6 of us who we always used to get together at each other's place for dinner, say once a week. Yeah. And so what we started doing was going for walks. So if they would come and they'd ring your doorbell and then they'd go out, and if you weren't available, because oftentimes I'm on a teleconference call or whatever, and so I would let them know ahead of time, or I just quickly let them know I have my blind closed in my kitchen. They would know that I'm busy. So it was like signals. But yeah, so we found that was really good for and there was a lot of time to talk, and plus you would stop and you'd have a chat and you'd have a laugh and this and that. So that's what we used to do here obviously when the weather was fine enough, but pretty well every day, 2 or 3 times a day, that's what we were doing. So
nice.
We found that good.
And so that just goes to prove, like, there's not one secret sauce, right? So sometimes the tool, and I always imagine myself like, I'm an adult learner, I got a toolkit around my waist, and my job as an adult learner is to fill up my toolkit with many different tools as I can. So I can try this one and see if that works, or this one, or maybe combine the 2. So one that we talked with Laura was being solo and just like, okay, just recollecting your thoughts and getting on, on the good page. Well, Merle's talking about the social interaction, right? And sometimes that can just re-energize you in a whole different way. Also the piece about doing it with other people, just feeling connected. So for example, my daughter, she's in Winnipeg, and she and I both like to be active but aren't being as active as we wanted. So what we started to do is a Zoom yoga class. So we get on like this, and then, so on Saturday and Sunday morning, Saturday I pick, Sunday she picks, and we just share the screen and we do yoga together. Now it's kind of ridiculous because We can't see each other. We could both be having coffee in the other room because, while the yoga's playing. And we also could both do this by ourselves without me having to get up at 7 a.m. Pacific time to match her 9 o'clock. Like, we don't need to do that. But for whatever reason, we know we're holding each other accountable. We know we're helping each other by both doing this at the same time. We're connecting after the call, we chat for a little bit. So I could play a yoga by myself for half an hour, but I don't. I don't know why I don't, but I don't. But I know she's on the other end of that call. Boom, I do it. So that accountability piece is really, great. Thank you, Amerly, for sharing that. Hi, Diane. Welcome.
Thanks. Sorry, I didn't have it in my hard calendar. It was just in my other calendar. So sorry I'm late.
It's the perfect time. It's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about the 3-step process for dealing with emotional wellness in turbulent times. The first one was notice. So narrow it down to one emotion that's kind of been heavy on your heart. 2, acknowledging that emotion, letting that sink in, asking it kind of what information it's trying to give to you, and then making a plan around, okay, what can we do to move out of that state? So who else would like to share an emotion with me? Yes. Sorry, that's got Sealanders and I forgot your first name.
That's okay. So I really found the isolation. I mean, I'm a very busy person. I usually travel to Toronto 2-3 times a month. So the first 2 weeks, I did nothing except go for groceries once a week. And the isolation, the fact of not having the interaction, etc. I cleaned my house. I spring cleaned my house more than I've ever done in my whole life. And just to keep busy. And so after 2 weeks, I just said, this is not the way I need to go. So what I started doing was going for a walk, calling friends. So we started having telephone, because we couldn't visit each other, so we had telephone conversations. We all ensured that we touch base every week, then started to do other things that would allow some interaction. The month of March was probably the worst because our weather's bad and you couldn't really go out much. So the last month's been better because I've been able to go out and garden and do some of the other stuff. But in Ontario, like, we're only at step 1. So really, they don't advise you to do anything with someone else unless they live in your own home. So hopefully we're going to open up more. And not having connection for family, that's very, very difficult, that isolation, and the fact that, usually we end up visiting. My daughter lives in town and my grandsons came in town, they couldn't come and see me. So those kinds of things really were difficult. But another good thing about it is, you end up doing more reading, or you end up doing more things for yourself because you're not as busy with the activities that you usually on. So there is some positive. My husband and I have been married 55 years, and I'll tell you, we've been together more in this house than we have in 55 years, because I usually do my thing and he does his thing. So, and that's been challenging because we're very different personalities. But I think the steps you've given us are really good steps, and they're things that took me a while to finally say, this is not working for me, I need to do something else. And getting up or getting myself a tea to take myself off of something that's frustrating me, and just sitting and relaxing, those kind of things have really, really helped. But it's very different times. There are positive things I think have come out of COVID. Families who live in their own home, having meals together, siblings are spending more times together. So there is some positives, but FaceTime's great because I get to see my son and his family and my daughter and her family face to face more often because they FaceTime me every week, which we never did before. So anyway, that's just mine.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And it's really interesting because being together as a couple poses like one set of problems. Being together as a family, people that are homeschooling and all that kind of, like, that's a whole other set of problems. Being by yourself, isolated, alone, that's a whole other kettle of fish. So there's no more hard. Like, they're all hard. They're all a different kind of hard. And you know, that's okay. And so, you know, I would encourage you, when you talk about that isolation, I would love to see you put a pen to paper and just write and let all that stuff out. You'd be so surprised what comes out when you actually start writing, even if you don't think you like writing, especially in longhand. It's very, very interesting. And I like how you know, again, as you talk through it, you're kind of working through it and seeing how the change has happened over the months have been passing, and trying to flip it to the positive, right? Which this is what so, you know, I'm a motivational speaker and I'm supposed to always be happy and up, and people come to you for like inspiration, and like sometimes like I'm not always happy. I don't know if this comes as a shock to any of you, but like I can get as pissy as the rest of them. So just allowing myself, and the things, when you do always flip it, that's good, but sometimes you don't allow yourself to feel it, like to just feel sad and broken and miserable and hurt, and you don't know. I think it's so important to allow ourselves to feel that way, even if you're a leader, even if you're a manager, even if you're the president, even if you're the matriarch of the family, whatever. It's okay. I believe it's okay for people to see you not being perfect all the time. It makes you more real. It makes you more authentic. You know, that little bit of vulnerability that you give, I think you get back in spades. Being able to ask people for help is huge, and in healthcare we're just often not used to doing that, and especially, you know, if I can generalize, you know, as women, well, if I ask for help, does that mean like I can't do it, or they won't think I'm capable, or that, you know, something's terribly wrong if I got this? Well, sometimes I don't got this. And it's important for people to know, like today I'm having and at that 1 to 10 scale, like it is a beautiful thing to use with your staff. It's a beautiful thing to use with your children. It's a beautiful thing to use with your partner, because you don't have to use so many words. You can use that 1 to 10 scale. So for example, my husband and I, if I need, we'll use it if we need to do something, or I want him to do something, or I'd like him to do something. Maybe it's important. I want him to do it like an 8, and he's like, oh, I really don't want to do it like a 4. Well, my 8 overrides his 4. Okay. But you can't always be a 10. Like you can't always say, right? You have to be honest on the scale. And sometimes like, he's like, well, you know what? Like it doesn't really matter to me much one way or the other, but if it's really important to you, then in just sharing that one number, we can both tell how each other's feeling really, really quickly. And so one of the things that we have done since COVID, so I told you that we're like, our marriage decided to just make that a priority. So at bedtime, we are asking each other 3 questions. The 3 questions are thus: 1, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? 2, what did you enjoy today? 3, what are you looking forward to? Now this, putting these thoughts in your head before going to bed, instead of the laundry list of things that you didn't get done that day, or the laundry list of things that are coming up tomorrow, or the things that you're frustrated about, or how it actually, this simple thing can really be a game changer. And if you're not sharing your bed with somebody, you can do it on your own. And the thought behind it is you're thinking about something in the past, something in the present, and something in the future. So first we were kind of like, okay, maybe what I'm grateful for is the same thing I enjoyed, but it's not really. So for example, I can be grateful for today that I am in pretty much perfect health. Like that is what I'm grateful for. Whereas if you ask me what I enjoyed today, I probably wouldn't say, well, I enjoyed that I'm in perfect health. But what I enjoyed today was like having a nice warm shower, and like the hot water just came on out. And then I got to do this call, and all the technology worked great, and people's faces were smiling and nodding in all the right places. And then I went for a walk outside and the sun was shining and I got to go. That's what I enjoyed today. And then what am I looking forward to? Well, tomorrow I'm doing one of those Zoom yoga calls. Like I'm actually really looking forward to that. And I'm going to get on my motorcycle and I'm going to go for a ride. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So we're kind of looking for something in the past, what I was grateful for. And I don't mean like big distant past, but just something overall that you're grateful for. What you enjoyed today. It might be, you know what, I really enjoyed sitting down with you and watching that show while we ate our dinner. Like I really thought that was that fun. The popcorn was like perfect today. And then what are we looking forward to? You know, not next year, but something coming up relatively soon that we have something that's like, oh, I kind of deal. We're going to call our grandson tomorrow. That's exciting. And so when we share that with each other, he might have not have been thankful for a healthy body, but when I say that, he goes, yeah, me too. Like I'm grateful for that as well. Or the dinner that we had. Yeah, I forgot that we had that steak was perfect. And then that will remind us both, so we both get those extra doses. And there's a word, I love this word. It's called mudita, M-U-D-I-T-A. I'll take that, M-U-D-I-T-A. And it means sharing joy, like sharing other people's joy. So then you get joy, like when something great happens to you, or you do something great, or things are good. But mudita is like when, you know, when somebody tells you good news, and maybe you feel jealous, or you feel like, well, why'd that happen to you? Or I'm sure you guys don't do that, but other people, that gives you a certain type of feeling. But sometimes people tell you something and you're like, oh my God, like that's amazing. Like, I'm so happy for you. Like your good news made my day. That's mudita, when you get to share in somebody else's joy. I'll just talk about one more thing that you said, and that's calling a friend. So I decided to do that, and I've actually been tracking it. So every day I make an effort to call one person. And sometimes it's, you know, who I happen to see it's their birthday on Facebook. So yesterday I called a friend but not like someone like, if I went to Winnipeg, I probably wouldn't call her to get together. Like she was a colleague and I like her, but it was her birthday and I called her and she answered the phone and she's like, oh my God, like Stephanie's calling me. Like she was super excited to hear from me. And I've been keeping track, and I'm actually at over 100 people that I've called. Some people I've just left messages for. I can safely say all but one was like happy to hear from me. And even that one, I still give myself a point because I knew that she wouldn't be that happy to hear from me, but I'm like, you know what? I just feel in my heart that I want to call her and just let her know that I was thinking about her and that she was an important person in my life. And I just wanted to tell her that. So that she wasn't that happy, it didn't even take away from it. It just like, good for me. I gave myself a point. I called, and you know, whatever happened, you kind of release that responsibility of how the other person reacts. But even just leaving a message on people's machine, it makes me, I am doing it for them, but I'm also doing it for me. I always hang up the phone happy and satisfied. I never hung up the phone and went, man, I wish I didn't call that person. No, it's never happened. And it makes me feel connected, and it takes away that isolation factor easily. So thank you for sharing that one as well. And I don't know, like I like tracking things because it makes me feel good to see, like when I look back and I can see who I write down, like who I called. So then even when I look back at the list, it makes me feel good to look at the list because I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good call. And I hadn't talked to that person in so long. And I'm just going to move from the screen because I want to show you one other thing. So on the note of gratefulness, one morning when I wasn't feeling particularly grateful, I got out a little book and I numbered it 1 to 100. And I just started writing things that I was grateful for. And it only took me like 10 minutes, I think, to do this. And it was just like super random. I'm grateful that my mom is here at 94 and a half. We're living in Canada for freedom, 3 healthy kids, for my grandson, for FaceTime, a kind husband, running water, money in the bank, a good upbringing, being able to breastfeed. Like I have no idea where that came from, but this is the thing with writing. Sometimes things just bubble up. It's like, I don't know where that came from. I haven't breastfed in 25 years, but anyway, still grateful I could do that. And you cannot go into an activity like this and come out the same way. You just can't. It's impossible. So then when the hub gets up and I said, well, guess what I did this morning? And I tell him I wrote 100 things. He's like, wow, look, I don't know if I could do this. So we start looking at it and then we start adding more things to it. And then this becomes like the breakfast conversation like this. It changes you, right? And when you can get all that crap out, and when you can start making room for new ideas and some creativity and some fresh thoughts and some new ideas for connecting, that it's when you can get rid of all that crap that your mind is like, you know what, now I can flip this. Now I do have some new ideas. Now I feel okay if I ask, hey, Gail, what have you been doing lately to get rid of that feeling of isolation? And this is why it's so important to share the ideas. It's so important to share, to maybe start off your meetings with, let's go around and let's everybody just, one breath, say something great that's happened this week, or say one person that you've connected to, or say one idea you've had that's helped shift your mood, or end your meetings in that way. For the good of the team, here's one thing that I'm going to go doing, moving forward this week. Here's one good thing I'm going to do. Start your, whether it's your team meetings or your meal times, or your bedtime routine or your morning routine, just start it with that shot of positivity and proactivity and good storytelling, something great that happened. Don't underestimate the power of that. It's super important. Whew. I feel like I think
people find it hard to write down things, though. I just think, I don't know, I guess it's hard for us to be complimentary of ourselves, right? So
isn't that the way?
I think that's a good suggestion for me to give to one of my friends who's been finding it really hard with the isolation and everything. So and even though we haven't had very many cases really in Newfoundland, but we've still been struck with the isolation and the physical, obviously the physical distancing and whatever. So
I really believe there's huge power in asking positive, productive, proactive questions that make people think. It's called positive inquiry. It's called appreciative inquiry. It's asking a question in a way that will, force is a harsh word, but encourage people to answer you in a way that will make them think more positively, more productively, more. So if you ask somebody, how are you? Well, maybe they're going to say fine or not bad or whatever, but it's probably not, it's unlikely that it's going to be fantastic. But if you ask somebody, so what, what's something this week that really made you smile, that put a smile on your face? Then, and at first they might go, I don't know, there's nothing really. And you have to be patient. Like, I'm going to sit through the uncomfortable side. Just think about it. Maybe I'll share with you something that I saw that really, so for me, I was learning to ride my motorcycle, and I posted up on Facebook, like, hey, I'm a new rider, not comfortable going with like these long, women's ride. Would anybody be willing to just come for a ride with me? And this woman, doesn't know me from a hole in the ground. She's like, hey, I'm super patient. Like, I'd love to come for a ride with you. And she came to my place and took me all over, and like, I don't even know who she was, and she just did that. Like, so to me, that was like, now how can I pay that forward for somebody else and stuff? Might not be taking somebody for a motorcycle ride, but in some other way, how can I pay that forward? So I actually started a hashtag, it's called Inspiration Everywhere. And I thought, I'm just going to start chronicling these things when I see people doing. I went to the track by my house. There's this guy, he's in his 90s, 90 something. He's throwing the javelin. He's doing track and field. Every Saturday morning at 9:30, he goes to this field, opens up the little locker, pulls out all his stuff. So I'm talking to him about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so, he goes, yeah. He says, well, I do have a little trouble with the hurdles. Hurdles? He's 92 or something. I'm like, oh my God. And I think we need to share stories like this, because if this 92-year-old is getting out of bed on a rainy Saturday morning and going to the track to hurdle and throw javelins, for God's sake, I can get out of bed and go up and down my stairs for 3 songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so important to share these stories. And when you start looking for them, you will find, like, at first you're like, I don't know, there's nothing ever happens to me. But when you start looking, I can't stop finding them. Like, every day I find them, every day. And I'm sure they're not just coming into my life, like, they're everywhere. We're just not noticing them.
Mm-hmm. And had you not gone to the park, you wouldn't have met this gentleman.
No, it's absolute. And it's not even that. I might have, noticed, like, where is that old man there with long sticks? But right. because I'm curious, I go like, hey, what you doing over here? Like, I ask, and I want to know more, because I'm genuinely interested in people's lives and what they're doing. And And it's sort of selfish because I need that. And as a motivational speaker, people sometimes ask me, like, how do you get your inspiration? How do you stay inspired? That is how. It is by talking to people. And every time I make one of those phone calls, I find something out that I wouldn't have found out by sending an email or a text. Hey, Laura, I'm thinking about you. Just wondering how you are. Like, you would have wrote back like, oh, that's nice of you. We're hanging in there. Hope you're doing well too. And that would have been the end of it. But when you pick up the phone, that's not the end of the conversation, right?
Right.
And if you really you just use that word really. How are you really? How can I help you really? It's a game changer. You get completely different answers. It's all in the questions that you ask.
We started doing house parties with a girlfriend of mine from Halifax and another girlfriend from South Dakota. And it's fun. You can even play games on it. So that's been very good. Very good.
You guys don't know about that. I just learned about it too during COVID. It's an app called House Party. And so what's kind of cool about it is if Diane and Gail are on it playing a game and we're friends, I can see that they're on it and I'm like, hey, can I play too? Or I'm just popping into your house to say hi. And so it's a neat way to connect. And what I love about this is so many things that have happened, and this was alluded to earlier, so many things that would never have happened before COVID will stay. You know, me and my family were in different provinces. We never had a Zoom call before with all of us. I would call one, I would call the other, I would call the other, but never did we all come together. It's like, well, why not? This is awesome.
Right.
And
So true.
even something like a call like this, I would have just come to your event, spoke at your event, left at your event. I would never have connected with everybody beforehand, which is a great idea. Like I hope live events never go away, and I don't think they will. But I also don't think this will go away. I think this will be a wonderful addition to conferences and events. And imagine how much we could do. Like we could have a whole call anyway, it's limitless now. It's limitless. So I think that's kind of cool too. Well, so in respect of everybody's time, I just, do you guys have any specific questions? Do you have any other thoughts that you would like to share? Anything that you would like to, say what's been working for you or anything at all? Yeah.
So one thing, like an emotion that lonely is one of them, but overwhelmed in that I'm used to providing support to everybody else, no matter what the situation. So my children, my sister, my parents, and also, I'm not in the actively working until just recently. I went back for a contract, but so I did get a lot of calls from colleagues, and I just felt a little overwhelmed by some of that because I was having my own emotions or my own feelings that you kind of have to put aside while you're supporting the nation, it seems.
And that's real. Like it's so real, right? And that needs to be acknowledged and appreciated and valued and just sit with. Because the thing is, this is so crazy because we all know this, right? We all know that we have to, have our own cup full or bucket or whatever vehicle we all know this. Yes. We just don't do it. And one of the reasons I think we don't do it is because we think we don't have time, or we don't have resources, or we don't have all that other good stuff. And I just really want to reiterate that you don't need tons of time. You literally only need minutes. So one of the things you could do is the buzzer on your phone is a beautiful thing. Setting that buzzer for every 45 minutes, every 90 minutes, when that alarm goes off, unless you're on a call or whatever, or in between calls, you stop, you close your laptop, you walk away from the computer, you do something for your body, you put some, you have a protein drink, you just do something, you stand in a yoga pose, you do something. It's not about the stretch for that muscle. It's about what it says in between your ears. I'm important. I'm valuable. I need to nourish myself. I'm worthy of self-care. I have self-compassion. I am emulating good behavior for those that I want to help, right? Because you would be the first person to be telling your mother, your children, your whatever, like, you got to take care of yourself. Well, don't just tell them, show them. Show them or ask them to hold you accountable. You know, you could say, I've been noticing that I've been really, you know, kind of using 99% of my energy to help other people. And I'm feeling a bit like a balloon. I'm pretty deflated. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to take, you know, I'm just making up numbers here, 15 minutes, 3 times a day to really focus on myself, to pray, to meditate, to read, to whatever. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to ask my partner, my kid, my mother, my who, to hold me accountable to that. I'm going to put a check on my calendar. So that when I've done it, I can see, oh, I did 3 checks today. So there is a physiological rush of endorphins that are released when we put that little check mark on. So if you're that type of person that likes that, so my thing right now, I'm trying to have sugar only 2 times a week. So every day I don't have sugar, I put, because I have a bit of a sugar problem. I have a large sugar problem, but anyways, but so I literally put a check on my calendar every day that I haven't had sugar. I see that check mark, it encourages me for the next day. I'm like, yeah, me, go me, you can do this, I got this. So if something like that might serve you, you know, either having somebody hold yourself accountable, and I know, like, I'm a grown-ass woman. I said to my husband, you know, I shouldn't need you to help me, but I do. I need you to hide the sugar. You know, I need you to say good job when I've gone a whole day without it. I need you to, you know, to hold me accountable to go for my daily walk or to take time to do this. Because he would say to me, he would say, tell me when you're done work and then we'll go for a walk. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work for me. Like, I'm never done. I'm literally never done work. Like, when you're self-employed, you could be working all the time, right? So I said, you tell me when we're going for a walk and then I'll be done work, right? Like, it's a completely different mindset for me. So we need to find, there's no one size fits all magic recipe, but find something that works for you and make that happen. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so I know that you guys have a call coming up in a couple of minutes. So thank you so much for your active participation. I hope you got a couple of ideas that you can use. One of the best ways to kind of reinforce the learning is to teach it to somebody else. So think about 1 or 2 ideas that you heard today from me or from one of your colleagues. Think about who you can share that idea with, partner, a colleague, child, anybody, a friend. Share that idea with them. Maybe have an accountability partner that you can check in with. And I left my email up in the chat box. If there's anything that I can help you with, if you have any questions or you want to chat privately, I'm very, very happy to do that. I think we're going to ask Tanya to stop the recording now, but please stay on the call. But just for the good of the team, I would like to go around and just take one breath and just a takeaway or something that you'd like to share. I shan't call you by name, but just one at a time, go.
Diane, I liked your 3 questions. What are you grateful for? What did you enjoy today? And what do you look forward to?
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. So Diane, you spoke. So can you call the next person? Then whoever speaks calls another person.
Gail.
Okay, I was going to say the same thing, and I could definitely use that. I always joke with my son, I've got rose-colored glasses on most of the time, and he's got gray glasses on during this experience. And so, you know, he initially, when there was concern about, you know, work getting laid off and all of that, which luckily didn't happen, he could have used those tools. So I will definitely share that with him, and you know, and even others in my life. But that was great.
Thank you. You call somebody else out.
Merlee.
So yeah, I agree with what Gail and Diane had said, but also I think utilizing some of this for one of my friends who I know is really down and out because of a lot of issues going on in her life, and so I think talking to her about writing out what she's grateful for, and I took a lot of notes here, and so I think that's something that's very important that will help her, I think, and also I found it very interesting that, as you said, I use the calendar already for things. So it is a good thing when you're quote unquote isolated. So so I gave you a thumbs up there. I don't know if you saw it or not, but anyway, thanks very much.
Thanks, Marlene.
Colleen.
I like the fact of when you were talking to Laura about the fact of, leaving the situation, doing an activity for 2 or 3 minutes, getting up and going and doing something else. So when you're frustrated, to get away from those things. So I liked those ideas, and we'll use them more. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Who would you like to call?
Oh, sorry, Becky.
Well, I too like the 3 questions, but I also like the taking the 15 minutes or a couple times a day, taking that time for myself. I know that's something I'm struggling with right now. I have a husband that's not in good shape right now. We had a little accident. So besides working full time and trying to go home and take care of him and a house and a yard, and, I have children, but of course with the pandemic and the isolation there, they've not been able to be around. So but I think taking that time will be important.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who would you like to pick on?
Who's left here that hasn't?
Laura.
Okay, Laura.
Well, folks, you probably don't know me really well, but I have a huge sense of humor, and sometimes it goes on the dark side every once in a while. So breathe, move forwardly, willingly is hit home with me. But I also wanted to add, take no prisoners after saying that. So.
Yeah. Is Sam on? I see that Sam's name is there, but I don't know if she's on the call.
I think Dallas is there somewhere too.
Oh, right. I don't see
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, Alice.
Hi.
And
So I just wanted to say that I love the 3 questions. So I agree with all. And, like recently I just went through the birth of my granddaughter. So my son and daughter-in-law, they're very first. So, as grandparents, it's so frustrating because you can't be there being the coach, right? And everything was planned out. Now all you got to do is panic and wait for the texts and whatnot. How are they doing? What stage are they at? You just can't be there. It's so frustrating. So you try pacing, you try doing stairs, you try everything. And then finally just knowing that, thank you, Laura, your facility was amazing. The birth of the baby was just a great experience, and everyone's safe, and in the end, happiness. So I went from anxiety to frustration to happiness. So thanks.
Thank you. Albert, maybe?
Hi there. Hi, Stephanie. Great advice. I really appreciate your energy and your insight, and really want to thank you on behalf of CAMDR for putting this together. It's so much appreciated during this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Sam is on.
What's that?
Sorry, I'm going to hand it over to Sam.
Oh,
yeah.
Sam. Hi, Sam. We're having a hard time hearing you.
You're having a hard time hearing me. Can you hear me now?
that's better.
Yeah.
I'm sitting closer to my computer now.
Much better.
I really like the 3 questions. I always have a problem with goal setting, and I feel like if I were to ask myself those 3 questions as I'm winding down and going to bed, I would be putting myself in the right kind of headspace before I wake up. So I'm definitely going to try that. I have been actually taking a few minutes to myself when I get frustrated. Usually what I do is I walk away, and we're really close to there's like a courtyard just outside of our department. And often if I get really frustrated, I just go outside and I do a lap around the hospital, and then I come back in. I've always felt a little bit guilty about doing that because I feel like I'm walking away from work. But after listening to the talk, I realize I'm actually probably doing the best possible thing for myself by taking myself out of the situation, getting fresh air. I really like the reference to blue and green must be seen. But anyhow, I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it anymore.
Okay. Not only should you not feel guilty, but you're setting a good example for other people. Like you might even tell people, hey, this is what I'm going to do. You might want to try that. Or this is what I do sometimes. It looks like you might need to go now. Have we got everybody?
Yes.
Okay, well then thank you very much. Stay on the call. Tanya, if you can stop the recording, I think we're good to go. Well, I hope that you guys got some ideas from that little session. Is there anything that's popping out for you guys that you want to share, something that has worked for you that you think might help other people? Because I think one of the really important things for us to do is that when something is working, to let each other know, so that maybe it might help somebody else, and maybe if it's not that exact thing that helps it, maybe a version of that, or you can take that idea and it'll make you think of something else. So one person here is writing, she writes, I find I'm missing the physical connection with others. We're all 6 feet apart. Virtual hugs just don't cut it, especially when I need a hug or I feel someone else needs a hug too. It feels cold to me. Isolation of a different kind. And that's totally right. It's irreplaceable. The hugs, the back pat on the back, the connection just when you want to reach over, and I think we need to just validate that is a real normal feeling. And I honestly I don't know how to replace that, you know. I don't think we can right now. We just have to try and use our words, sometimes using music, sometimes using a connection that you have with somebody else, whether it's some poetry, a book, just something a little bit different. It can't replace that physical touch. You can't do it. I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you for that one. I don't. I'm sorry. I just hope things get better for us soon, and we can have some of that physical connection again. In the meanwhile, we have to be, try and be grateful and appreciate what we do have, and get what we need in other ways. So I think somebody writes, I feel we will have such a better appreciation of connection post-COVID. Absolutely. And I think that might be an interesting exercise to do, pre-meeting at one of your events, is to be asking people what positives have you seen come out of COVID, because it's been a couple months now, and there certainly are some positive things, and I think it's important that we share those with other people. Well, you're not a big questiony bunch here today. I put my email in the chat box, so if there is anything else that you'd like to ask or connect with me about offline, I'm more than willing and happy to do that. They say I'm fun to follow on Facebook, so feel free to add me, Stephanie Staples, if you'd like, and I'll be sending up some follow-up resources for you, a downloadable copy of one of my books, and some other goodies to be connected. And I think we just need to continually positively share ideas for inspiration and positivity, and just helping each other as much as we can. And please ask for help if you need it. Much as people like you and enjoy you, we can't read your mind, so people can't help you if you don't let them know what you need. So I think that's really, really important. And thank you for what you do. When people ask you what you do, I always think you should tell them I save lives. Ask me how, because you absolutely do save lives with what you do. So yeah. Tanya, I'm going to hand it back to you unless there's anything else.
I want to thank you, Stephanie. That was really great. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And with that, we will sign off. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Take care. Take good care.